pertaining to credit. Based on the credit system of Tanzania, I understand that we have different credit systems in East African countries. For example, I think in Uganda it is 1 to 25 hours, notional hours. But for Tanzania, we are following one credit, which is equivalent to 10 notional hours. And thus, in a single day, we have 8 working hours. And in a 1 week, we have 5 working days. In a semester, we have 15 studies of weeks. Therefore, 1 week, a student can accumulate a 40 working hours. And for the 15 week of study of a semester, a student can accumulate 600 working hours. So if you divide them in 10, you will get in a semester, student is allowed to, or is going to cover 60 credits, which is equivalent to 600 hours with the calculation we have described. Credit accumulation and transfer system is also very well explained in the standard 3.19 and the standard 3.20 of the guideline of the TCU. We can go and see that. But what is specifically mentioned is the volume of the hours per a single credit, which is 10 hours, as I've explained. And also program may adjust for practical training. And maybe I can tell my fellow colleagues that you are allowed to adjust notional hours specifically on the practical training. For example, you can reinterpret 1 hour, 1 credit for 15 hours, or 1 credit for 20 hours, but this is specifically for practical training. So this is how it is applied. And regional credit plus assessment and award, which is, so key highlight things is I've explained. 1 credit, 10 hours, and accredited institutions only is allowed for a student to transfer credit from one program to another. Equivalent courses required. A student can only transfer credit from one program to another if those programs are equivalent. And when we say about equivalences, we don't mean the nomenclature, the title. It could be Bachelor of Art in History in SUSA, but it can be Bachelor of History in other university, or Bachelor in Heritage in other universities. The only thing which matters here is the equivalences between two different programs that student transfer the credit. And also, grades count to GPA. And for the system of Tanzania, the GPA credit is counted on 5 scale. Rules, student transfer criteria, it is well explained in the standard 3.21, where set the eligibility requirement for transfer of academic credits. So if you go to that book, you can find the standard 3.21, which is very well explained on how students can transfer credit from one program to another, or from one university to another. Key highlight thing is the maximum validity of the transfer. The maximum validity of the transfer system is 5 years, based on the Tanzania credit transfer system. 5 years means what? A student can transfer from Spain to SUSA, but maybe sometimes because maybe illness and other kind of reasons, he is not maybe eligible to join directly from Spain to SUSA, and he can have sometimes rest at home because maybe of medical reasons, something else. We have a lot of reasons student may quit or may freeze. So the validity, maximum years for student, for those credit to be transferred is 5 years. If it exceeds 5 years, the credit is nullified. The transfer system is not working. I think you will ask and I will explain later. Registered student only are the one who are supposed to transfer credit, but also no transfer after the discontinuation. If you've discontinued, you cannot transfer the credit. Say, I studied in first year and second year, then discontinue, then you say, I'm going to take my credit to SUSA. That is not allowed. You should be among the past students. And also 50% of the core courses credit at a receiving university. If you are coming to SUSA from any other university in the world, you should get at least 50% of the credit from SUSA. So if it is a 5 years program, that means the deadline for the student to transfer from that university to SUSA is the first semester of the, maybe the second semester of the second year, which that the half of the credit. So for example, for Doctor of Medicine, we have 600 credits. So a student can transfer up to 300 credit from the host university and from the past university to the receiving university. Uh, roles in credit transfer. Here in standard 3.22, we have roles for students, role for releasing university, and also we have role for receiving university and role for the commission, that is TCU. Well explained, well articulated. You can go and see how every one of the transfer system is obliged to accomplish the transfer. But in a nutshell, a student apply for the transfer, and then university verifies, commission approve, and the registrations follows. So a student starts by applying himself. You cannot transfer credit on behalf. Grading system, this is a well explained in standard 3.23 and standard 3.24. This is very important because we find sometimes in other universities, for example, in Asia, India, and maybe I don't know about Europe, but I also know in European countries, the grading system, I mean the marks to be awarded A or B, B plus, C, they are different. So we also explain them in detail in standard 3.23. Now, to end up my presentation, I paused for current practices of credit transfer, cases, challenges, and success. What are your experiences regarding the credit transfer system? We are all maybe experienced transfer system in one way or another, but also challenges and what are the successful stories we have experienced. Thank you for listening, and you are ready to share your experience, comment, and challenges. Thank you.
Thank you, our Quality Assurance Officer, Mr. Idi Ali Idi. Um, we are so much pleased with your presentation, and I think, can we give another applause for him, please? I know there are a lot of questions, but if you allow, we can continue with the program. We can interact, and there will be sessions where questions will be taken. If you allow that, if you think that's proper, I will advise that way, so that we can continue with the program. And now we have we have one program we want to also very short one. Will not take more than 5 minutes or too much. We want something to share and to show as part of evidence of this collaboration. And the State University of Zanzibar, among what Professor and Gomez was showing here about numbers, so we want to put number into actions now, not just figures. So I have the honor to invite to you, in front of you, 3 students who have already graduated from University of Cadiz, taking a part of this collaboration network. As a part of this, one is Rafa Saidiali, who did ICT. Can you come in front, please? And Sakina Mohamed Hamis, also did the ICT, as well as Ray Barbara Said. And in particular, the courtesy from Zanzibar, I want you to mark one of the things very important for us is part of our culture. So we have done this purposely so that you can enjoy part of our culture. So this is why we are calling them here. So maybe you want to say something? Okay. Yes.
Good morning, everyone. Buenos dias. Thanks all for giving me this opportunity. My name is Sakina Mohamed Hamis. My colleagues, Arafa and Raiba, we are standing here as beneficiaries of Erasmus program, KA 171 program at University of Cadiz or University of Cadiz from Zanzibar University. And today we are very happy and we will presenting our Zanzibarian cultures. And let me stop here and say welcome all. Karibuni Zanzibar. Zanzibar hakuna matata. Thank you.
So, I know Spain is one among the good visitors, tourists who are coming to Zanzibar. I know that. But I will ask more to make sure that, yeah, because I know that. So, this is part of what we talk about SDGs and the blue economy, and tourism is part of the blue economy. So, we want to also to send this message that culture is very important in sustaining communities. Culture is part, it should be part of the indicators that has to be demonstrated, not to be um, destroyed in terms of culture. This is the message we want to send, and thank you so much. And thank you so much, the partnership for the partnership, and thank you so much. You may sit. Thank you. So, so now we continue with the program. Sorry. So we are going to another program regarding the mobility, and the introduction will be given by Professor Ave Vasquez Pica, of Director of International Mobility and Cooperation at the University of Puebla. And then after that, he will also invite the group together. You're welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Salam alaikum. So, dear audience, dear authorities, colleagues, and friends, I'm very happy to be here. I would like to thank Dorota for framing this section. We are in section 14, so it's Dorota who's dealing, but I am the TBD person that is there. So it's me, okay? I am the TBD one that is in the pro. So,
sorry, sir.
Yep. So in these short sections, I would like to focus in the broader meaning of international mobility within the framework of this staff week, and also more specifically within the Leader Africa consortium. So international mobility is sometimes perceived as very simple terms. So students travel abroad to study something, a staff person move just to teach something, or something from the administrative staff go there to another place to know something about the procedures in the other universities. So all that is true, but of course, mobility is much more than movement from one country to another. It's one of the most effective ways to creating trust between institutions. So when students move, they do not only attend classes in other universities or abroad, they learn how other universities or academic culture work, they develop autonomy, a strong intercultural competence, and a wider understanding of their discipline. They return to their home university, usually with new perspectives, and very often with a stronger sense of confidence in their own academic and professional path. Also, when academic or administrative staff move to other places, the effect is equally important. Staff mobility also allows universities to compare procedures, improve services, identify common challenges, and develop also new forms of cooperation. And sometimes the most effective and important effects of mobility are not immediate. They may appear much later in the form of new projects, joint publication, a new course, or simply as a faster and more reliable channel of communication between two offices. Let me now talk a bit about a personal experience of mobility that I have, that I think that could be interesting. So I work in the forest sector, so I like trees and forests and that kind of things. And 20 years ago, I organized a congress there in Huelva, and we invited a researcher from the University of Padova in Italy. I didn't know her at that point, so we invite her. We create in that congress a nice contact, research contact, and we decided, okay, why not later for me to do a research stay there at the University of Padua. Okay, I went there 1 year later. At that time, we were already trusting in our universities and in our research collaboration. So we decided, okay, why not to sign an Erasmus agreement after that? Okay, so we did that. We signed an Erasmus agreement. And after 20 years, there are more than 30 students that have gone there to the University of Padua, or have come to the University of Huelva at the different level, degree level, master level, and also the PhD level. So last year, there were one student from Pakistan that was there from the University of Padua, that was 6 months with me doing a research stay. Next week, one of the students that I am supervising the PhD will go there to do a short research stay also. Next year, there will be a master student from the University of Padua coming to the University of Huelva to do a final master thesis. So with that, I would like to mean that if we frame the mobilities in a good way, it will create a very long distance and long wave impact on the universities, in the core of the universities, also in the international connection of the university, and of course, which is even more important, a long-lasting impact and positive impact on the students. Because if everything is done well and well framed, the impact will be forever and will be changed the student for better and forever. Okay. So this international connection between universities is especially important in the framework of the Consortium Africa, for example. In the context of Leader Africa, this consortium brings together Spanish and African institutions with the aim of building cooperation based on reciprocity, mutual respect, and practical outcomes. So we are not here to present one-way model of cooperation, but we are here to work together to understand one another's experience and to identify areas where our institution can become more connected and more compatible. So this morning program is a good example of that. We have the opportunity to learn from SUSA and from colleagues working with the Tanzanian and East Africa higher education context. That knowledge is really essential. Mobility can only work properly when partner institutions understand each other's academic structures, calendars, credit system, quality requirements, and administrative procedures. And this brings to a key point. Successful mobility requires trust, but also requires transparency, which is really important. So a student who studies abroad needs to know that the work completed at the host institution will be recognized. A lecturer who participates in a teaching mobility needs to know that the activity is clearly framed and institutionally supported. And the administrative office also needs to know which documents are required, who validates them, when the nominations must be sent, and how the process will be followed from the beginning to the end. So without that elements, the mobility becomes fragile. And with those elements, it becomes a reliable instrument of cooperation. In Europe, we have the Erasmus Plus program and the transfer credit system, DCTS. They have helped to develop common tools for this purpose. They are not perfect, and they do not solve every challenge, but they provide a shared language for us for academic workload, learning outcomes, recognition, and institutional responsibility. That shared language has made it easier for universities with very different histories and structures to cooperate in a more predictable and transparent way. At the same time, it's very important to stress that today's session is not to suggest that one system should simply be transferred to another context. Higher education systems are shaped, each one by their own histories, regulation, national priorities, and regional frameworks. So what matters is not imitation, but dialogue. The real question is how different systems can communicate better with one another so that the students can move with confidence and institutions can cooperate more effectively. That's the reason why today's presentation in this morning is so relevant, because it connects the strategic value of mobility with the practical mechanisms that made mobility possible. Academic recognition, documentation, nomination, coordination between the different offices, and clear communication between home and host institutions. These practical things may be seen as technical at first sight, but they are fundamental. The mobility program is only successful not only because it's inspiring, but because it's well prepared, well documented, and thoroughly recognized. So because behind every successful exchange, there is a careful institutional work. So I'm sure that the session that follows will be useful not only for those directly involved in international offices, but also for academic coordination, decision makers, colleagues interested in building long-term collaboration between SUSE and the Leader Africa Consortium. So with that in mind, I'm very pleased to give the floor to Dorota, that will guide us through more practical aspects of mobility and credit transfer system in Leader Africa Consortium. So thank you very much. Okay, yes, thank you.
Sorry.
It's okay. Thank you very much, Javier, for this introduction, and good morning once again to everyone. Habari za asubuhi. Assalamu alaikum. So I will continue from that exact point that Javier concluded. Mobility is not only movement, it is an academic commitment. I also want to connect this presentation with the session we have heard before from Mr. Idi Ali Idi, who just explained to us the Tanzanian and East African framework. I will use a few reference points from that presentation. I hope it will be it will be correct to show how we can make Erasmus Plus mobility easier to plan and easier to recognize. The route is simple. First, I will speak about the value of the international mobility. Second, I will explain the ACTS logic and compare it carefully with the credit logic used in Tanzania. Third, I will translate that into very practical Leader Africa opportunities and procedures for students and staff. So let us start with the basic question. Why do we put so much effort into mobility, international mobility? For the participants, value is direct. A student or staff member enters a new academic environment, learns different academic methods, uses another language, and comes back with a network that often lasts much more than mobility itself. That is the most visible part. For the institution, mobility is also a diagnostic tool. It shows whether our procedures are clear, whether our curricula are comparable, whether our academic calendars can speak to each other, and whether our services can support international participants properly. And for the higher education system as a whole, mobility creates permeability. Sorry. It connects qualifications, makes institutions more visible, and contributes to a stronger culture and quality and transparency and recognition. So when we speak about mobility under Erasmus+, we are not only speaking about the grant. We are speaking about structured mechanism that helps people, institutions, and systems to work together. A useful way to explain Erasmus+ mobility is to present as a learning project. Before the mobility, we design it. We choose the academic activity. We check whether it makes sense for the program of the professional or the professional profile. And we sign the relevant agreement. For students, this is learning agreement, and for staff, it's mobility agreement. During the mobility, the participant does the work, attends classes, carries out research, teaches, trains, or follows a job shadowing activities. If something changes, it should be not a drama, it should be just documented. After the mobility, we close the circle. There must be a transcript, a certificate, or report, or another formal document. And then the home university has to recognize the learning or professional activity that has been done. In other words, a mobility is not travel with paperwork. It is learning with passport. And yes, sometimes the passport gets the nicest photos, but the academic record should also get something useful. Okay, so this slide shows the management logic behind the mobility opportunities. K171 program is part of Erasmus+ International Credit Mobility. In practical terms, it supports mobility between European higher education institutions and partner institutions in third countries, like our lovely friends from Tanzania, or not associated to the program. The funding comes through Erasmus+ framework, and it is managed in Spain through CEPIE. CEPIE is our national agency that manages the whole Erasmus+ program and funds. Leader Africa is the consortium framework coordinated by the University of Cadiz, as we already all know, and with the participation of University of Huelva, La Laguna, and Las Palmas de Gran Canaria, and Casa Africa. For SUSA, the important idea is that mobility is not an isolated bilateral action with one person sending an email to another person. It is structured channel. There are agreements, official calls, nomination procedures, academic documents, and recognition process. We're going to see it right now. The structure may look bureaucratic, but it protects everyone. It protects the student, the staff member, SUSA, and our Spanish host universities that are receiving your staff or students. So now, what is this ACTS? ACTS means European Credit Transfer and Accumulation System. It is not only a number of credits, it is a way of describing learning so that another institution can understand it. The basic figures are easy. In the European higher education area, a full-time academic year normally corresponds to 60 ACTS credits. A semester normally is around 30 ACTS credits. One ACTS credit usually represents between 25 and 30 hours of student workload. But the most important point is not the number. The most important point is a connection between three elements: learning outcomes, workload, and assessment. Learning outcomes tells us what the student should know, understand, or be able to do after completing the activity. Workload estimates how much time the average student needs to achieve those outcomes. And assessment confirms that the outcomes have been actually achieved. So ACTS is useful for mobility because it allows us to explain a course or activity in a way that another institution can evaluate before the student or staff travels and recognize and after the return. They recognize it after the return. So here I want to be very careful because SUSA colleagues know much better the Tanzanian credit system. So from the perspective of mobility management, the encouraging point that ACTS and the Tanzanian framework already speak a similar conceptual language, they both use credits, right? They both connect credits with workload. They both refer to learning outcomes. And both systems understand credit transfer as a way of recognizing learning across programs and institutions. The difference is the size of the credit. In ACTS, one credit normally represents between 25 and 30 hours. In the Tanzania University Qualifications Framework, one credit represents 10 notional hours, as Mr. Idi explained us already. What we can do is translation, not copy-paste. We can compare the workload, the level of activity, the learning outcomes, and the assessment. This gives academic coordinators enough information to decide recognition case by case. This is why previous SUSA session was so useful for us. Once we understand the level, descriptors, credit logic, and program structures, we can design mobility that fits both systems without forcing one system to imitate the other. Okay, so this slide is the practical core of recognition. Let us imagine a course at the Spanish university with 6 ACTS credits. In workload terms, this normally means approximately 150 to 180 hours of learning. If we express that in the Tanzanian credit logic of 10 notional hours per credit, that workload reference would be around 15 to 18 credits. But I want to insist on the word reference. This is not an automatic equivalence, and it should not be used mechanically. Academic recognition should look at 5 questions. First, the level. Is it appropriate for the student cycle and program? Second, the learning outcomes. What is the student expected to learn? Third, the workload. Is it amount of learning comparable? Fourth, the assessment. How is learning verified? And the fifth, the program fit. Where can we learn? When can this learning be recognized at SUSA? This approach gives us flexibility. It allows SUSA to protect the integrity of its own programs while still recognizing international learning in a fair and transparent way. For students' mobility, the most important document is learning agreement. The route should start with a fit. The student should not simply choose a destination. The student should choose a semester, courses, or research activity that make academic sense in his or her own home program. Then comes comparison. Academic coordinators compare Spanish course catalog or research plan with the SUSA program, level, learning, outcomes, workload, assessment, language, and language of instruction. After that, the learning agreement is completed. Table A describes what the student will do at the host university of the learning agreement. Table C describes what the home university will recognize when the students is back from the mobility. This is why recognition is much easier when it is planned before departure. If we wait until the student returns, everyone is forced to reconstruct the academic logic afterwards, and that is where the problems appears. So my simple recommendation is agree before, document during, recognize after. That sequence avoids most difficulties. Through Leader Africa opportunities, the opportunities are mainly divided into student mobility and staff mobility. For students, the usual profile is bachelor, master, or PhD. Depending on the call and the academic fit, it can be a semester or a study or a research stay. The host university waives tuition fees for the mobility period, and the home university commits to recognize the approved learning activities after successful completion. For teaching staff, the mobility can involve teaching activities. This is valuable not only for the visiting teacher, but also for host students, because it brings international knowledge into classroom, even for students who cannot travel. For administrative and technical staff, mobility is usually training, job shadowing, staff weeks, like this one right now, meetings with counterparts, offices, exchange of procedures, and improvement of services. The Spanish side of consortium gives SUSA several possible entry points. Las Palmas de Gran Canaria, the University of La Laguna, and Casa Africa as a strategic, Huelva and Cádiz as a strategic partners that reinforce the institutional link with the African continent. This timeline is not meant to turn the session into technical training. It simply shows the read of the student call. For the 2026-27, the call was published in March. Partner universities were informed about the available places and conditions. The key date for partner universities was nomination deadline, which was 30 of April. After nomination, the student had to complete the UCA online application in the case of University of Cádiz, provide the required documents, and when necessary, take the language test. Then came the learning agreement that we previously talked about, and the deadline was shown is here as the 1st of June. The provisional and final resolution followed in June and early July, together with invitation letters. For the first semester, students would arrive at the end of September for registration and start the classes. Most important point for SUSA is this: internal selection process must start early enough. SUSA needs time to publish the call, inform students, check eligibility, apply transparent criteria, rank candidates, prepare a reserve list, and send the nomination documents on time. These dates may change in the future, but the logic is stable. Internal selection first, then official nomination, second, then the UCA application, learning agreement, and admission. So for staff mobility, has one extra practical element, which is the activity match. For University of Cádiz staff mobility, the call normally refers to a catalog of activities that we publish on our website. There can be teaching activities called STA and training activities called STT. Before a staff member is nominated, the candidate usually needs to check the catalog, contact the activity coordinator, send a CV, and obtain the signature on the mobility agreement. When the mobility agreement is signed, prepared and signed, this document describes the activities that are going to take place, the objective, the expected results, and the dates. It is not just an administrative form. It proves that the stay is feasible and useful. After that, SUSA can run its internal call, internal selection process. Publish the call, check eligibility, score the application, rank candidates, and prepare the reserve list. The nomination pack is sent to University of Cádiz or another member universities, and then by the official deadline that we all establish. For 2025-26, our staff call at the University of Cádiz was early November. Then mobility were expected to take place between mid-March and end of July. Some of our colleagues have been to Cádiz, so they already know exactly the process. Again, future calls may vary a little bit in the dates, but normally this is the logic at the operational level. So here the practical recommendation is simple. For staff mobility, do not nominate a profile in the abstract. Nominate a person for a concrete agreed activity. Okay, so this is the internal process. I would recommend for SUSA, always adapt it to your own rules, of course, and institutional structure. First, publish the internal call early and clearly. Student and staff need to know the opportunity, the eligibility requirements, the criteria, the deadline, and the documents. Second, check eligibility before ranking the candidates. For students, this includes enrollment, student study cycle, language level, and academic fit. For staff, it includes employment and SUSA, the suitability of the activity, and the signed mobility agreement when required. Third, use a selection committee and the scoring system, but they should be visible and consistently applied. Fourth, prepare a reserve list. This is very useful because selected candidates may decline, may not obtain a visa, or may have documentation problems. Fifth, send the nomination pack complete and on time. In Erasmus Plus Mobility, a late or incomplete nomination can be more damaging than a weak candidate because there is often not enough time to correct everything. And finally, close the process with recognition. For students, this means academic recognition. For staff, it can mean formal recognition of the training or teaching activity within SUSA internal procedures. So I know this slide looks like an administrative part, so I will keep it short. For students, the usual nomination package includes the nomination letter or list, proof that the internal call was published, declaration of absence of conflict of interest, and then the document that we already talked about, which is learning agreement, passport, language evidence, and for research stays, the research plan with invitation letter. For staff, the nomination package usually includes the selection letter or list, the signed mobility agreement, proof of the transparent internal selection process, the no-conflict declaration once again, and later the individual documents such as passport and employment certificate. The best practical advice is to keep one responsible contact point at SUSA for the process. Clean PDFs, editable Excels, list, when required, and emails. That helps and makes very big difference. So these documents allow the consortium to justify the funding, issue invitation letters, prepare insurance, manage payments, and most importantly, ensure that the mobility is recognized properly at the end. Okay, so I will close with a simple invitation. Leader Africa offers an opportunity, but the quality of that opportunity depends on how we design it. If we ask questions early, we avoid problems later. If we agree the learning or staff activity before departure, recognition becomes much easier. And if we close the loop after the mobility, the experience becomes visible for the participant and useful for the institution. I hope this presentation helps SUSA colleagues see the consortium not as a complicated administrative system, but as a practical channel for cooperation. So please contact me whenever you need any clarification about the ACTS system or mobility for staff or students. I will be very happy to work with you in the future mobility between SUSA and our Spanish partners. And I hope it will be always meaningful and smoothly going and properly recognized. Thank you very much. Asante sana kwa kunisikia. Thank you.
Oh, I was not here for protocol reasons, sorry. We will continue with our program. We are expecting guest of honor will have come here, but I will still continue with the program when she arrives. When she arrives, we will postpone to get to the early morning program as we started before. So after that talk, and I think I didn't get it all, but myself, I benefit from this presentation because I know sometimes we are having big problem reconciling how two systems can work together. So I think, as you mentioned, Dorotha, the issue is not to force one system into other, but to translate it. That is very important message, and I think this presentation has made both presentation from Susa and from Spain, from wherever you know, so wherever has made the understanding of people to this partnership more broader and institutionalize the way we can operate it even more. Thank you for that. Please, I will ask you to upload even more for both presenters. Okay. Okay. Okay, there is a question. Okay, Professor Gonzalo? Yeah, I think because we are expecting her, but yes. Presentation. Okay, you started the presentation. Okay, you start the presentation of Professor Marcela first for introduction and then we'll. So now we will welcome Professor Marcela for the introduction on the alliances, and then after that, University of Guadalajara and then we'll continue this. Sorry for that, but we do this in the interest of time as well. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. So this panel, we can put the PowerPoint presentation. Sorry. Okay. Okay, sorry, wait. Okay. Okay, okay, so I think we can continue with the program. This panel is entitled Sustainable Cities and Communities, SDG 11 and partnerships, and it will focus on sharing with you diverse strategies, approaches, and knowledge transfer with third countries, non-European countries, in the context of European alliances in which our 4 Spanish universities participate as full members. So, for you to contextualize a little bit, the European University Initiative was launched in 2018 with the objective of creating European campuses by means of a consortium of European universities that should work together with the stakeholders of their territories in order to contribute to the social, economic, and local development of our cities and to make them more competitive, innovative, and sustainable. So we are talking about the most advanced model of inter-university cooperation by the Erasmus Plus program that is causing an internal revolution in our universities because we have to start working with our university partners in terms of trying to align our legislation, our internal procedures in order to create, for example, joint programs, micro-creations, PIPs, and other types of activities that are being launched not only in a physical way, but also by means of virtual exchange. So at the same time, these alliances have to develop a global strategy to cooperate with non-European countries. So here comes the form of external partners that can participate in our alliances. So we are not talking about only a group of European universities working together, but also sharing some of their activities with universities of other parts of the world. And this cooperation is also in line with the SDG 17 of the Agenda 2030, these partnerships for the goals, and in fact, it deals with all the other SDGs. European Alliance This European Alliance call was the first one was launched in 2019, and now we are 65. Sorry, I was 65 European alliances plus 8 seals of excellence. That means that there are a consortium of alliances that have been recognized by the European Commission that were not funded. Okay, so that means that more than or almost 600 higher education institutions are participating and collaborating within this European University Initiative in 35 countries and collaborating. And this is very, very important because, as I said before, it is not only universities collaborating, but also by themselves or among them, but also incorporating other stakeholders. So here you can see that we collaborate, these 65 European alliances, with more than 2,200 associated partners, including organizations and entities belonging to the public, private, and the third sector. Okay, so yeah, the idea of this session is that each of our 4 universities belonging to 4 different alliances, we are working with third countries and also trying to design and implement activities to contribute to all SDGs. We're going to try to share with you what we are doing in each of these 4 alliances. So the first to speak will be Blanca Miedes. She's Vice Rector for, well, it says International Alliances. This is from the University of Huelva. And she will present the European University for Future Cities here. So Blanca, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Marcela. And good morning, distinguished authorities and esteemed academic colleagues. Dear friends, it's a true honor to be here today at the State University of Zanzibar, representing the University of Huelva. And first of all, I would like to express my most deep, sincere gratitude to the whole international team of the organization, and of course our host for having all of us here and bringing us together to this amazing and inspiring place.